Hey everybody, welcome back to Standby for Adventure. This is John. Sorry I was gone for a couple of weeks. I had something to do last week, and then this week, work stuff and whatever else, and then I was trying to come up with something to do for a new video, and I decided to design a monster on this episode. There's mostly because I love doing this. I just absolutely love it. I have another document here on my computer that is a monster book that I've been working on for a while. It is 194 pages long, 61,000 words, and I'm planning at some point to do a Kickstarter for it. It is for 5e D&D, because that is my current absolute favorite. It is also my favorite edition of the game, because it is really damn good, and I don't care if you think otherwise, because that is my opinion, and I'm not going to fight with you about it. So what I'm going to design today, oddly enough, is a plant. And I wanted to do kind of like a Shadowfell-touched treant, and I am calling it a Treesnag. A snag, by the way, is the term for a tree that has fallen over. And like in the woods, if you see a fallen tree, it is called a snag. And I should look up the exact term to tell you what it actually means. Tree snag. Yes. Trees and Snags, National Wildlife Federation. Snags, the name for dead trees, that are left upright to decompose naturally. So I thought, hey, what a great name for an undead tree. I sort of initially thought of it as an undead tree, but that's not actually what it is. What I really want to do is a tree that has been, like I said, kind of corrupted by the Shadowfell. And I may in fact use this in an upcoming game that I am currently running. You'll see on this page here, I'll make this text a little bit bigger so you can see it, maybe a little bit. I have this stuff highlighted in yellow, and it's highlighted to tell me what I have to do, what I have left to do on the creature. And you can see I've put in here, it is a large plant. It probably will be unaligned. Maybe it won't be. I'll have to think about that. In fact, it probably should be evil, or at least I think that makes the most sense. But let's go here. I just copied this over from another monster that I had previously worked on, so that's why there's a whole bunch of text in here. And let's see what we've got. I have the D&D Beyond open here, and you can see my 7 billion tabs here open at the top. And here's a shambling mound that I was looking at, again, because it was a plant. Where did I put the treant? Here's the treant. It was the first thing I was looking at. So treant is a good thing to base this off of. A treant is a challenge rating 9. Now, Treesnag I could see being the same. I could see it being stronger. I could see it being weaker. But I want to make it different. So it's not going to be a 9. And in fact, I probably want to make it a little bit weaker than a treant, because the game I'm currently running, the characters are a little bit lower level. I wouldn't really want to throw a challenge rating 9 at them at this point. So maybe I'll make this a 7 or even an 8. I think they could handle an 8. And I think I might go that route. One of the big things that I think is elevating the treant's challenge rating is their animate tree ability, which is... I always do the wrong way. This ability here that's right at the end of the write-up. And it is once per day, animate trees. The treant magically animates 1 or 2 trees. I don't know why it would ever be 1 in any sort of encounter, but who knows. That it can see within 60 feet of it. These trees have the same statistics as the treant, so you go from fighting 1 treant to fighting 3 treants. And that tells me that this creature is probably more like a challenge rating 7 monster. And then when it animates the other trees, it then becomes challenge rating 9. So if you are running treants and you are not using the animate trees, you are not using the treant to its full ability, and it is not a challenge rating 9 monster. So the trees that they animate are the same as the treant, except they have intelligent charisma scores of 1, they can't speak, and they have only the slam action option. As animated tree, an animated tree acts as an ally of the treant. The tree remains animate for 1 day or until it dies. Until the treant dies or is more than 120 feet from the tree, or until the treant takes a bonus action to turn it back into an inanimate tree, the tree then takes root if possible. So, I don't think I'm going to include that in here. Maybe I'll do something like I'll have an entangle effect or something like that, but that's way down the line, like far, far down the line. We'll probably get to their actions and special abilities near the end. But let's put these side by side here, because I've got the Treesnag. I don't know why that didn't automatically go halvesies on the screen, but we can fix that. And so let's just see here. So large plant, treants are chaotic good. So I think I am gonna put typically neutral evil. Yeah, I like that. Typically neutral evil. NEU, because I want them to actually be evil. I want them to be bad guys. I want them to be different than treants. And now that section is done. Great. Oh, they capitalize chaotic good, which is interesting. I'm not sure if I did that on all of my other write-ups, but I will double check that, because that's interesting. Let's see. Maybe if I look at a monster that's from the what was the recent book that just came out? Not the Monster Manual. Monsters of the Multiverse. Man, I'm not able to find it there. So let's go to the top of the page, and oh, I can just Deathlock. I know is a monster out of there because I just used those. Whoop! It's not a plant. Okay. There we go. Deathlock, Monsters of the Multiverse. Yeah, so we can see right here, typically neutral evil is in fact all capitalized. Oddly, so is medium undead, which is different than in the previous books and the previous write-ups for these that are in D&D Beyond. So kind of interesting. And yes, this is exactly the sort of thing that editors and writers need to pay attention to when they're putting stuff to paper. I worked as the game developer for Mutants and Masterminds for 8 years, and this is exactly the sort of stuff that I had to do. And you would think, gosh, John, that seems like a really silly thing to do. Why would you do that? And the answer is because at some point somebody's going to have to go back in here and edit the entire book. So why bother doing it wrong when you can do it right the first time and save everybody a bunch of heartache and headache later on? Let us find our treant. So treant has an armor class of 16. I think that's probably still pretty good for a Treesnag. It maybe should be a 15, given that I want to put it at challenge rating 8. I had already determined that, which is why it is not highlighted. And challenge rating 8, I'm going to let you in on a secret that is really not a secret at all, but super, super fantastic resource from Kobold Press. Their Howling Tower series of articles from Steve Winter, huge longevity game designer for Wizards of the Coast and TSR before that. Really super nice guy, really good at what he does. and he was the one who wrote. Oh, I've got the book down here, but I can't think of it. The Scarlet Citadel for Kobold Press, and he also has done the development work on the monster books that they've put out. This series was written in 2015 when he was going through and doing the development on their first Book of Beasts, creature collection. That was it. I did a book called The Book of Beasts, and I think they did a book also called that. But anyway, but this, he goes through and averages out, like, here are the average hit points of every creature in the monster manual, and by challenge rating, by hit dice, all that sort of stuff. So if I'm working on a challenge rating 8 monster, I go to number 8 here, and it shows me that they could have as few as 10 hit dice or as many as 16, and the median in that is 13. So I'm just going to start with 13 and see how it looks. And it may not be the right number, I don't know, but that's what we're going to start with. So 13 hit dice is what I want to do. You can see I have not yet monkeyed with this, so change this to 13. Large creatures. I have to actually get out my player's handbook, or my monster manual. 1 second. Because it actually has good information in it that, you know, I need to look at. I have dice in the way down here. Everything is a mess. Monster manual. There she is. So, large creatures I think have D10s. I just want to double check because I'm pretty sure that medium creatures have D8s. Yep, large creatures have D10s, which is 5.5 hit points per die. So 13 D10 is correct. Let's call up the calculator here. I'm sure I could probably do this math in my head if I really wanted to. 13 times, what did I just say? 5.5, right, half a 10. 5.5, or half the average of a D10. So 71.5 hit points is 71, and that is before we add in the bonus for Constitution. So I am not going to highlight the bonus because it's not correct yet. Speed. Let us go back to our good friend Treant. Wherever it went, here we go. Treant has a speed of 30 feet. Okay, no climb speed, nothing special about it. I don't want to give it anything special either. So 30-foot speed. We get rid of the highlighting. See, it's just easier to keep track of. It's just my way of doing it. If you write up monsters and you have a different way of doing it, great. It just makes it so much easier to not mess with. Let's take a look here real quick at... yeah, did I hide that now? I did, because I collapsed it. So this also tells us number of hit points, hit dice, and then if you go back to this this series of articles, which I think I have right here. These are all the articles by Steve Winter. This is the first one, and it probably tells me, okay, this is about ability scores. I don't really care about those. Those usually I kind of determine based on what the monster actually is. So it looks like I want to go to part 3 of this, which is going to give me, for instance, their armor class and damage, or is this just damage? This is just damage. Oh, armor class is actually in the monster manual. So let's see what they tell us in the monster manual for armor class. I know it had something in here. Armor class, a monster wears armor, blah blah blah, dexterity modifier. Oh, okay. I thought it did actually give me some sort of gauge on what, where the armor class should roughly fall, but maybe I'm just on crazy drugs, and I am wrong. 19, 17. Sorry, I'm just looking through here trying to find a monster that's around a PL8 to see what sort of AC that they've assigned. And this is what I do for every single monster I come up with, because I would like to have the creatures be as close to being quote-unquote balanced as possible. So let's see here. A Cloaker has an armor, is challenge rating 8 and has an armor class of 14, but it also has a lot more specialized movement and ability to hide. A Treesnag is not going to have any of that stuff. So I think I might bump down the AC on that to a 15. Let's do that. And it's not a huge difference, but again, it's a 5% chance that the players will be hitting more often, and it's fun to hit monsters. So let's just give that to them. Let's go to the Treant again. If I can find it. Where did I hide it? Here we go. Treant has a 23 strength. Okay, so these are going to be pretty good scores. Let's put a Treesnag at a 21 strength, which is a +5 bonus. Dexterity, we will stick right with what the Treant is, which is an 8, so a -1 modifier. Constitution is 21. I'm still going to give the Treesnag a +20, so a +5, because I don't want it to be a wimpy monster. I want it to be able to stand up to things. Intelligence, there's really no reason for it to be less intelligent, just because it's been corrupted by the Shadowfell. Shadowfell. For some reason that didn't sound right. So I'm going to leave that the same. Wisdom, I think I am actually going to drop to a 14 instead of a 15, and that's just to reflect sort of the, I don't know, I guess what I was thinking when I said that was sort of its selfishness and non-awareness of anything except itself. It's not as aware of its surroundings as a Treant would be. At least in my head, and that's how I come up with stats. Let's see here. Okay, that is all the stats. Now I can go back and finish the hit points. So 5 times 13. Oh, math. 65. How can that be? 13. Oh, interesting. The Treant only has 12 hit dice. Probably because it has the animated trees ability, actually, now that I think of it. That is a really good point, and I hit 35 instead of 65. So let me think about this. So 71, that would be 136 hit points. Hey, I can do math. 136, which is just under a Treant. Do I mind that? No, I don't mind that. I think that seems appropriate. So it is roughly as hardy as a Treant, but it's not going to be as powerful as a Treant. I think that makes sense, right? A little bit lower AC, 2 fewer hit points, the number 2 fewer hit points than a Treant has, but it is not going to have animated trees running around helping it. So I don't mind that. That just automatically, it having almost as many hit points as a Treant makes it tougher. Not tougher than a Treant, but tougher than it would be with a whole lot less hit points and not having the extra animate trees ability. Let's just double check here. 21 strength is a +5. Dex of 8 is a -1. Con of 20 is a +5. Int of 12 is a +1. Wisdom of 14 is a +2. Charisma of 12 is a +1. Those are all correct. 5.5 times 13 we already did. 13 times 5, right? That's 65? Yep. 65. So we are in good shape, and it was 65 plus 71. I just want to double check this math, but I'm pretty sure I had it right because it's just 130. Calculator. is 71 plus 65 equals, yep, 136. I did have it right. All right, clear that. Let's see, damage immunities. Probably none. The Treant doesn't have any. Damage vulnerabilities. I think I'm going to give it fire. Just like the Treant. Interestingly, I noticed the Treant has damage vulnerabilities fire. The fire is capitalized. And I don't think the other creatures that are in like the monster manual have, yeah, they're not capitalized. So they must be updating their standards for what they do in editing their books to capitalize things a little bit more often. Damage resistances, however, the Treant has, and I am probably going to give the same thing. Bludgeoning and piercing, that makes sense. Resistances. I think that makes sense. Bludgeoning, piercing. Not slashing, because obviously axes do slashing damage. I could absolutely see Treants having resistance to all physical weapons, honestly, but I get what they're trying to do here, so that if you try and chop down a tree, you're not going to use a club, and you're not going to use a rapier, you're going to use an axe, and that's what makes the most sense. So, senses. Oh. I'm tempted to give these guys some dark vision. I think I will, and I think a 60-foot dark vision is good. Passive perception is going to only be a 12. I'm not going to give them any skills. They're going to have the false appearance ability because they're going to look like a dead tree. These all look good, so I don't think I'm going to add anything else to that. I mean, I could toy with the idea of giving them a resistance to necrotic or whatever, but that doesn't really make sense, and even most undead don't have a resistance to necrotic. And honestly, like I said initially, I was first thinking, oh, how cool to have an undead treant. And then I thought, no, that doesn't make any sense, because even if a treant were undead, it would still be a plant, right? Just because its animating force is whatever, negative energy, wouldn't necessarily make it an undead like we think of undead when it comes to fleshy, organic beings becoming undead. Anyway, that's my thinking on it. Languages. It's certainly going to speak, or be able to speak. Treants have common, so we're going to add common here. We're going to add, I think Druidic is still perfectly fine. Elvish and Sylvan, what do Shatterkai speak? Shatterkai speak Elvish. Alright, that answers that. So they are going to speak Elvish as well. And let's see, Treants speak Sylvan. I think that still makes sense. So I'm going to give them Sylvan too. So they are very much exactly like Treants in that regard. I think that makes sense. Now, they are challenge rating 8, which tells me, as I look at the page, 9 of the monster manual, is worth 3,900 experience points. So if you beat this puppy, in theory, he is worth that much. His proficiency bonus at challenge rating 8 is a +3. I really like in Monsters of the Multiverse that they added in this new proficiency bonus entry for the monsters, because it makes figuring everything out so much easier. And if you need to make a roll for something that they didn't take into account, or you need to take into account, like, whatever, a dexterity save or something like that. You need to figure out, like, wait, are these numbers right, or something doesn't look correct here. Um, Sorry, excuse me. Having that proficiency bonus is just super useful. Um, so there you go. Treesnag, large plant, typically neutral evil, 15 armor class, 136 hit points, 13 hit dice, speed of 30. We did the stats. Vulnerable to fire, resistant to damaging and bludgeoning and piercing. Dark vision of 60 feet, passive perception of 12. Languages, challenge rating. Okay, so now we get down to its basically its special abilities, right? We're gonna have false life. False appearance. And we are going to get rid of the text that's already here because it serves no good purpose for us. Siege monster, I think that also makes sense for a Treesnag. And we will get rid of all of that text. And then, what else do they have over here? Okay, no other funky abilities. Maybe I'll add something that I want to put in here. I can't really think of anything, but let's hold off for now, and maybe I'll look at some other plant monsters and see if something makes sense for them to have in addition to what they already have. Actions. The Treesnag makes a... let's see. For the Treant, it says the Treant makes 2 slam attacks. So yeah, the Treesnag makes 2 slam attacks. I think that makes sense. Very, very similar to the Treant. I am going to make this a little bigger. Whoops, yeah, that's right. And, oh, that was nice. It reformatted for me. Multi-attack, and then we'll put the slam in here. Whoops. Slam. And, oh, it can throw rocks. I think that sounds like fun. Rock. I'm going to use my rock ability. And then animate trees it doesn't have, so I do want to give it something else. So I'm for sure going to put something down here, and it's going to cost it an action. I don't think I want to make it a spellcaster. I'm not going to give it any abilities like that. But maybe I can. Well, I'll look at some other plant-based creatures and see if there might be some other cool things. And it could even be something like it can use its roots to grab people, or it can. It could even grab people with its additional limbs and things like that and do something. I'll have to think, because it needs something, right? It needs something else to make it powerful enough to be able to face a group. And two slam attacks is not going to be enough. For the Treant, it has its own 2 slam attacks, but then it also has up to 2 other trees that also have 2 slam attacks. So. Or does it? Did it only have one? Have intelligence, and only has the slam action. So it doesn't. So it effectively it doesn't have multi-attack. So a treant that animates 2 trees would have 2 slam attacks itself, and then 1 for each tree. So a total of 4 attacks. So if I wanted to, I could make the multi-attack here for the Treesnag 3 or 4 attacks, and it would be more similar to the power level of a Treant. And since our Treesnag is a little bit weaker, I don't think I would go with 4. I also like the idea of giving it a little bit more personality by giving it some other effect. So let's see here. To do the slam attack, that will be a melee weapon attack. So I'm just copying this here. And we go back to our good friend Steve Winter and see how much damage these creatures should be doing. And what was this? Damage by CR. Here we go. Super useful. I have used these charts so much. It is ridiculous. So this is challenge rating 10 right here. 9, 8. So 8 looks like it's Wow, a little over 50 points of damage on average for a challenge rating 8 monster. That's pretty darn good. He does also break these down by creature type, so a plant actually does more than average damage by almost 50%, 1.43 as a damage multiplier. So this thing is probably going to be dealing some pretty decent damage. The average for challenge rating 8 looks to be about 47, but also as low as 17, which is pretty amazing. So that must be like a super magically powerful creature that only did 17 damage in close combat because it makes up for it in some other way. I would assume these are things that can cast like Fireball or something like that, right? That isn't taken into account for just the damage the creature can do with a melee attack. Let's see here. So 47. Let's look at the Treant again and see if it does. The Treant does, it's gotta be pretty serious damage here. 16 points of damage, right? That makes sense. So that's 32 if it hits twice. And then it has the other two trees, potentially, that would also be doing 16 points each. So that's 64 damage for the Treant that it can deal per round if it hits. So the Treesnag is probably going to be in the same general area. I'm probably going to lower that number instead of in the 60s to probably closer to 50. Just because I don't want it to be doing that much damage, because that seems a little crazy. So let's see here. The Treant's Slam is plus 10 to hit. This is not going to be plus 10. This is going to be 5. This is going to be a plus 8 to hit, and I get that, of course, by adding up its Proficiency Bonus, which is a plus 3, to its Strength Bonus, which is a plus 5. Plus 8 to hit seems perfectly reasonable to me for a challenge rating 8 monster. Its reach, I bet... Oh, it's only 5 feet. That surprises me for a Treant, right? 5 feet? I suppose it can't really maneuver around very much, right? Like, I'm thinking about its limbs. You would think it could reach... I'm going to make it 10 feet. I think 5 feet on the reach for a Treant was probably a mistake. That seems very, very weird to me. Let's see. On a hit, they do 3d6 plus 6 damage. So our damage is only going to be plus 5. 3d6 is going to be too... is it going to be too much? It's not going to be too much because this is only one creature. So 3d6 is an average of 11. Plus 5 is 16. Why do they also do 16 damage when that should be 17 damage? I guess I found an error in the Monsters, or in the, Monsters of the Multiverse? No, this is from the Monster Manual. That is very strange, right? Am I crazy? 3d6 is, oh, it's 10.5. Right, so it is 15 damage. I was a silly person. So if it hits twice, it's doing 30 points of damage. If I increase this to 3 hits, it's doing 45. Again, assuming it hits. And this is going to be bludgeoning damage. And does that sound like enough? Let's play with this a little bit. So if I did 2d8, that's only 9, plus 5 is 14. That's not good. If I did 3d8, that's 12, that's 13, plus 5 is 18 points of damage per hit. So 36 for 2 hits. 36, 46, 54. That's probably about where I want to be. Should I change it to 3d8? That seems like an awful lot of damage compared to the Treant, even though it's going to have fewer attacks. I don't think so. I think I'm going to... excuse me. I think I am going to make this... the Treesnag can make 3 attacks, 3 slam attacks. And that way it's doing 45 points of damage, which is a little bit over the average for a challenge rating 8 creature. It still has to roll to hit. It's going to have a chance to miss. I'm going to give it some other special ability to do something cool and different. Let's see, the Treant has a... Oh, interesting. Okay, so the Treant throws the rock. I'm going to have to look at some of the other monsters that I worked on, because I don't know if I remembered that rocks use strength as the modifier to hit. So this is not a melee attack, but a ranged weapon attack. Plus 8 to hit. Range is... range... I think we can do the same range. Do I maybe want to shorten it a little bit? 50 feet, 60 feet... No, they're still pretty similar in strength. I could go... yeah, why don't I reduce it? So I'm going to say initial range is 60 feet, and they can only throw a rock 120 feet instead of 180 feet. That is definitely not a change to its power level, right? I could easily keep it at 180, but I am trying to reflect that these guys are a little bit weaker. It is one target. On a hit, it does 4d10 plus 6 for the Treant, so it's going to be... Let's just see what that'll be for this guy. 4d10 plus 5 for the Treesnag is 26 points of damage. That's a little bit less. That's about 20 points less than all 3 attacks. I don't mind that. 26 seems like a perfectly fine amount of damage. I can imagine any player character getting hit by this thing going, oh, holy crap, I just lost half my hit points, especially if it's like, well, like a rogue, right? A wizard, it would probably even be more than half their hit points from getting hit by a rock. That doesn't sound like fun at all. It is still bludgeoning damage. And what else does this say? That's it. I don't need to have anything else here. And, whoops. I can get rid of all this, which was some acid damage thing from some other creature I was working on. And now comes the fun part. So, we have this Treant. Let's look at some other plant monsters, just for the fun of it, and see what sort of critters, or what sort of abilities these critters have. I'm probably going to go for something a little bit stronger to see if there's something here. Does an awakened tree? No, these are really wussy little things. False appearance, slam, yep, nothing major. Did that have any other weird stuff? Nope, bludgeoning piercing resistances, okay. Treant sapling also has animate tree. Wow, Treant sapling has a challenge rating of 2. That's really low. Oh, but I suppose if it's actually a sapling, it's not a significant tree. Although looking at that, let's take a look here. It is chaotic good, 14 AC, so the Treesnag has a little bit higher. Only 45 hit points. Speed is still 30. Yep, I think we're still in the right ballpark there. Assassin Vine. Let's see if the Assassin Vine has something interesting. Okay, see, the Assassin Vine has Entangling Vines and Constrict. And this may change the number of attacks that I even give it, because if I give it Entangling Vines, the Assassin Vine can animate normal vines and roots on the ground in a 15-foot... Oh, yeah, I love this entire idea for this. So I think I'm going to give this ability basically to the Treesnag, and it also reinforces that whole idea of like snagging, right? Like it's literally grabbing at your feet, and whether that's its own roots or some of its limbs, or it's controlling the growth around it. I think that's really cool. So I'm going to copy and paste this, but I am actually going to go back and rewrite it, because plagiarism is actually a thing, even in D&D. So I do want to actually turn it into text that I have rewritten, but for the purposes of this, I think we're good to just copy and paste for now. We will do the... Yep, that's good. Entangling vines is correct. So this is going to say, now we got to read through this. So the Treesnag can animate normal vines and roots on the ground in a 15-foot square within 30 feet of it. Within 30 feet of it, I think, yeah, that's not bad. So it's not a huge range, right? And it can control the area right in front of it, whether it's its own limbs and whatever, grabbing things or stuff it's animating. Yeah, that's okay, because then it can do it around itself if it wants to, but it can also do it in a particular area if it wants to. These plants turn the ground in that area into difficult terrain, which is exactly the effect I wanted. A creature in that area when the effect begins must succeed on a DC 13 strength check, strength saving throw, or be restrained. We can remove this. Remove hyperlink. We're going to remove the hyperlink from here. We're going to remove the hyperlink from here. Creature in that area, when the effect begins, must succeed on a DC 13 strength saving throw. So what were we looking at before? The Cloaker? Yes. Let's take a look and see. So the Cloaker has a save DC of 13 on its various abilities. So how is it getting to 13? So its Moan is a Wisdom save, 3, 4. So it's got a +5 effectively. So it's probably based on its Charisma. +3 for its challenge rating is a 5. Okay, so that sounds about right. And what would this be based on? This would be based on, I'm going to say it's based on Wisdom. So it's like a spell-like ability, like a Druidic ability or something like that. So it's going to end up being the same DC. So DC 13, and again, that is because +2 from Wisdom, +3 from its challenge rating bonus, or the class level bonus, whatever it's called in the game, I forget. DC 13 strength saving throw, or be restrained by entangling vines and roots. A creature restrained by the plants can use its action to make a DC 13 strength athletics check, freeing itself on a successful check. The effect ends after 1 minute, or when the assassin vine, this needs to change to Treesnag, dies or uses entangling vines again. So this doesn't have recharge. This doesn't have one usable once per rest. It doesn't have anything like that. It looks pretty good. So if it wants to, it can move the area of effect around, and sounds like it would be kind of a problematic monster to fight. Let's take a look at what the false appearance ability says. Yes. We will go... Why are you here? Let's find our treant again. And the false appearance ability says... What? Well, the Treesnag remains motionless. It is indistinguishable from a normal dead tree. So that makes it slightly different than a regular treant, because it is not, it doesn't look like a living tree, it looks like a dead tree. Siege monster, we will copy this over as well. The Treesnag deals double damage to objects and structures. And holy moly, that's it. That's a monster. Let's take a look here and see what I think of it. I'm not going to fill in all the text up here, but I will do that eventually. In fact, maybe I'll do that later tonight. AC 15, hit points 136. Let's take a look at those tables again from Kobold and see how our hit points look. 136 seems pretty healthy. So I think that was part 2. Had the hit dice. This is hit dice by CR and hit points by CR. So hit points by CR says the DMG's monsters for some reason, and I thought it was super interesting that he figured out both the DMG monsters and the monster manual monsters, but the DMG monsters have way more average hit points, quite a few more average hit points than the monsters in the monster manual. So I don't know if they were edited and developed by different people, or if they just didn't, or things changed between the development of the DMG and the monster manual, but there is a difference. So it looks like usually they have only challenge rating 8 monster has maybe 110-ish, 120 in that range. So do I want to monkey with that? I could bring it down a little bit. Maybe I will. Even if I just change it to 12d10, that's going to get rid of 6 hit points, and 5 hit points is 11 down to 125. Oops, not 1125. Let me double check the math on that again with the calculator, because I do not want to be wrong. And that is 12d10. 12 times 5.5 equals 66 plus 60. Okay, I was wrong. It should be 126. I don't mind that. 126 sounds good. It's still a healthy number of hit points, and it is one challenge rating less than the Treant, so I don't mind that. It's going to be harder to get the whole party up to it to attack it. Obviously, that's not going to be a factor for the people who have to stay at range, but for anybody moving up, that slowed speed is going to be a pain, especially if it starts off by hucking rocks at people, right? That sounds like a lot of fun, actually. So yeah, 15 AC, 126 hit points, speed of 30. I think this looks good. Like I said, I'm going to go through this and rewrite the text that I just copied over. But here is a Treesnag, and I'll probably put this in the comments in case anybody wants to use it. Hopefully at some point you will see a Kickstarter coming from me for a big monster book. And there you go. The Treesnag will be part of it. I hope you like this. If you want me to do more stuff like this, please let me know. I absolutely am bonkers, crazy, go nuts for writing up monsters. So I do not mind doing this if people want to see more of them get developed like this. I won't bother with all the fluff text, right? I should maybe explain that in case people don't know. All the rules, this stuff that we just did, is game design people and gamers who've been around for a long time and have heard these terms refer to the rules portion of it as the crunchy parts. And then the explanatory text about what is a Treesnag or a treant or whatever the monster is, and those little sub-paragraphs that tell you a little bit more about the monster, that's all fluff. That's stuff that doesn't affect the game rules, but it affects how you run the creature. Just sort of an interesting thing. Fluff is also, or rather, all world background information is fluff. It's the stuff that doesn't have game rules associated with it, and then the game rules are all crunch. There you go. Hope you like this. Like I said, let me know what you think. Let me know what you think of this monster. If you have any opinions on if I should change something or add something or take something away or give it more hit points again or a better armor class, like, just, I'd love to hear from you. That's about it. I don't have anything else to say. I'm going to come up with another episode very, very soon, so you'll see me back. Have yourself a good day, and stand by for adventure. See you soon.